Afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
We're live now. We can start.
We can start, Bellen?
Yes, please.
Okay. I will now call the hearing to order. As directed by Manitoba Health, we're requesting people avoid close contact within 2 meters with anyone showing symptoms of a respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing. If you are experiencing flu-like symptoms, we are requesting that you excuse yourself from the room. And Bellen, we only have one applicant via Zoom today?
Correct.
Okay. So, sir, you understand you're going to be put in a waiting mode there while we're going to deal with 16 Sutherland first, since there's an applicant at the hearing right now, okay? Okay, thank you. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. This afternoon, I will be chairing the hearing. My name is Robert Hutchings. My fellow panel members are Ms. Linkletter and Mr. McIntyre. Representing the Assessment and Taxation Department today is Mr. Das Mohammed, and our recording secretary today is Ms. Rojo. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by this Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with this Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following their swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by cross-examination by the appellant first and then the panel members, and then the appellant's testimony, followed by cross-examination by the assessor first and then the panel members again. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decision based on the evidence presented here today. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible, as information on all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. And can everybody please make sure their cell phones are on complete silence? Thank you. Bellen, the first property we're going to do today, I believe, is an appellant from 16 Sutherland Avenue, item number 5 on the docket. Could you swear in the assessor and the appellant, please?
Please state your full name. You affirm the evidence about present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. Please state your full name.
Elvin Linder.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Okay. Mr. Das Mohammed, we'll start with 16 Sutherland Avenue. We're dealing with a 2021 realty appeal. When you're ready, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Board of Revision file number 20-291, roll number 14000059100. Address is 16 Sutherland Avenue. Roll year is 2021. Reference date is April 1st, 2018, and the assessed value is $189,000. The parcel is industrial miscellaneous. There's 4 buildings on the property. There's 1 premise, one story. The actual year built ranges between 1905 and 1966. We're utilizing an effective year built of 1960. Wall heights range from 12 feet to 16 feet. Zoning is M1 manufacturing light. The land area is 21,929 square feet. Plan area is 4,023 square feet. There is a small basement of 308 square feet. Gross floor area is 4,639 square feet, and the leasable area is 3,299 square feet. Land to plan area is 5.45 to 1. So on the next page, there are no leases. This is a owner-occupied building premise. On page 3 are my comparables. So there's 4 comparables there. All comparables are industrial properties. All the comparables are located in the same market region as the subject. All leases are current in relation to the reference date. Effective ages range from 1966 to 2005. Wall heights range from 12 foot to 20 feet. Leasable areas range from approximately 1,700 square feet to approximately 4,900 square feet. Net rents range from $4.50 per square feet to $4.96 per square feet. I'll just point out that comparables 1, 3, and 4 are all located on a gravel road. So entrance to them is through a gravel road. There's no paved street there. On the following page, we have our workup. So we're utilizing a overall net rental rate of $4.67. We're utilizing a vacancy loss of 6%, even though the subject has been owner occupied for several decades. We're allowing for 2% non-recoverable expenses. We have a calculated NOI of $13,450. We're utilizing a cap rate of 7.1%. That gives us a rounded capitalized value and assessed value of $189,000. If you turn to page 8, there is the map of the subject, and below that is the subject parcel boundaries. On the following page is an overhead shot, so you can see I think the owner owns 3 other parcels beside the one there. So the one that we are dealing with is the rectangular one right in the middle, and then the smaller one right to the left of that, or sorry, to the right of it. And then on the following page, I have a close-up of that also. At the bottom there is a street view looking towards 16 Sutherland Avenue there. On the following page, there's some alternative views. And then we have our cap rate study and our non-recoverables, which is the same as 2020, and I won't go through that because I think everybody's heard those. So going back to our workup, we believe that given the industrial rate real estate market in Winnipeg over the last several years, where there are more users than available space, as per our appendix on pages 2, 4, and 6 at the back. From external sources, we believe that the assessed value of $189 to be fair and equitable, and I respectfully ask that the board confirm this value. And I'm open to questions.
Thank you, sir. Does the appellant have any questions on the evidence presented by the assessor?
Well, I only have one question at this time, and that is, none of the buildings on the property have a basement per se.
Is there a house on the other side one?
There is no house.
Okay, so we'll get rid of the basement. We're not assessing for the basement anyways?
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, okay. I think we'll have an inspector, somebody to come inspect it.
Any other questions on the evidence presented by the assessor, sir?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Linkletter, any questions of the assessor?
Yes, just a couple, thank you. So you didn't have a chance to inspect this property?
No, but I've been there.
Could I back up a minute, please?
Of course, sir. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Kerry.
I don't call in question the valuations that you have here, but a covering letter that I included with the evidence that I submitted asked a question. And the question is what is the value of a property if you can't access it? And the reason I'm saying that is because we've occupied this property for over 60 years. I've personally been there. It was if one might say it was a gravel road, I doubt it was that then. And there has never been an improvement on that road through all the years. Over the years, I've tried to rent the street so I could improve it.
Okay, sir, you're presenting evidence now. Maybe, unless you've got a question, maybe phrase it as a question whether the assessor is aware of the road and then the lack of access. Would that be fair, what you're asking?
Well, the thing is all the access to the property is off that short street of Sutherland Avenue.
Okay, so we're asking questions of the assessor's evidence. So maybe it sounds like we'll leave that until you present your evidence, why you believe the assessment is wrong. Would that be fair?
I must apologize because I don't hear that well.
I was trying to say, I'll speak up louder here. I'm trying to say that the process right now is asking the assessor of any evidence that he's presented. It sounds to me like you're presenting evidence, so we can leave that evidence until it's your turn to present. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Linkletter.
Thank you. You didn't have a chance to inspect
I haven't inspected it, but I have been a customer. I was there last year. We brought in an engine to have scrapped. And we came off Sutherland. We were told to go down the back lane and into the shop where they weighed our car. And then we got rid of the engine, and then we came back and weighed it again. And that's how we got paid for the scrap metal.
Are you saying that you entered the property from McFarland Street?
Yeah, if you look at my evidence on picture on page 10, right at the bottom there. So we came in here, went into that building.
A moment, please.
Yeah, right at the bottom. Page 10. This street right here. So we came off the street and went into that garage there. Right in here.
If I might approach.
So we came in here,
Right.
went into that garage to
That's
get
right.
weighed. Yeah.
Well, it's not actually a garage, it's enclosed scale.
Yeah,
Okay,
so we
well,
brought our car in there.
Okay, and then what material did you drop off?
A whole engine.
Which?
An engine.
Okay, and where did you drop it off?
So we got weighed, and then they told us to put it in a little metal bin that was there.
It was, okay, so it was a container.
Yeah.
But that's not the normal situation. What usually happens is perhaps because of the fact that you only had one item or something, and we wanted to give you better service than normal. No, we wanted to give you better service with that item, because normally the procedure is that you go through here, you get weighed on the scale there, and you proceed through the property and come out the entrance on McFarland. And then you have to come back and weigh again. We didn't want to put you to that.
So McFarland would be on this side, right?
Yes.
So we are assessing this building here and this here.
Yeah.
Not you own these other two buildings, but we're not This is not the assessment.
Well, there are no more buildings here.
Or, sorry, the land there.
We own the land here, the main operation of the yard, I'm not sure when this was taken, but anyways, the main operation of, in terms of processing material is right over here.
Right, so this appeal is for this side here, and this is part of
And
it.
this,
No, this is on a different lot or a different roll number.
no,
So
actually, it's all in one roll number
So the
now.
roll number we're at today, here's the,
Yeah,
so
actually-
here's the parcel. So we're assessing this one and this one on this roll number.
This one and this one here.
With this street being in the middle there. So we're not assessing this one on this roll
I
number.
appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that it's this piece of property here, within this square here, and this piece here.
Right.
Well, according to the information that I have in the tax bill, I just needed the,
So that's it right there.
yes, these two pieces of, that's right, okay, two pieces
Right.
of property. You're absolutely correct. These two pieces of property, well, this piece of property is affected too, but we were only appealing this particular
Right.
tax bill.
And McFarlane, what you're saying is over here, right?
Right.
Yeah, so
So that when you were here and requested just to drop the thing off wherever it was,
right.
you really weren't being made to go all the way down this roadway here,
No.
come out the other way and come around.
No, but that's not the issue for this roll appeal anyways.
Right, but the thing that is this all right if I have this conversation, sir?
I think so, sure.
Okay. The problem is this area, this roadway here, over the years has deteriorated terrifically. And to the point where it's practically, when it rains or when the snow melts, it's a mud hole. We get stuck there. Our forklifts are going from our properties to the other. Our warehouse is over here. The only entrance we have to the warehouse to get to it is right over here and over here. The main scale entrance is over here. We have an allowance for parking over here, and we have access to here. And we were constantly getting stuck on this property for a number of years already. As a matter of fact, it's only anecdotal, but I used to have an old forklift and used to break the axles on that old forklift, and the boy said to me, "Why don't you get a new one?" I said, "What for?" He says, "It's cheaper to fix the old one." But I apologize for that. I digress. But
Okay, I think you pointed out the problem there, or with the roadway.
see,
Guys, I wouldn't mind sitting down again, please. Were the panel members able to follow what was going on there with
this is this was
the photo, with the plot and everything?
well, this is a sort of different type of appeal on a different basis.
Yeah, okay.
Under normal circumstances, perhaps the value of the property is as stated. We're saying that the value of the property doesn't have the value because we haven't been able to use it properly. And as a matter of fact, several years ago, we spent $10,000, close to $11,000 putting wood planking down on the street. So we should.
Okay, sir, we'll leave that until your presentation, okay? We're just gonna finish up with the assessor's evidence here. Do you have any more questions of the assessor?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Linkletter, did you, was your question answered? I think,
Yes, well, partial. I'll just carry on. Thank you.
of course, thank you.
So I'm just gonna ask the
Sure,
audience. There
yeah.
was, and I understand that you were there, but do you have anywhere in your field notes when it was last inspected or any,
Not
is
in the
anything
field.
written about the
Let me
road?
I'll just check.
Which is the issue here?
In the field notes, there's no inspection date.
No inspection.
No.
Okay. And I have another question. I don't know whether you can answer it,
Sure.
but is it normal within the city not to have, especially in the Point Douglas area, not to have roads paved?
There is,
Ms. Linkletter, I'm sorry, but I can't hear you. Would you maybe pull your microphone down a bit or? Thank you.
Sorry, I'll just repeat my question. So I'm not sure if this is under your expertise or not, but is it unusual to have unpaved roads within an area of the city such as Point Douglas?
no, because I have done some appeals on other places in Point Douglas where I have used comps that also have no paved streets. And the three on my comparables don't have.
Right, 1, 3, and 4. So
Right.
that's Terren Street, Maud, and another
Correct.
property on Terren. Okay. Just one last question.
And they're gravel, not mud. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not familiar with the street there. I don't remember if it was mud or gravel.
Just one more question in regards to the actual building itself. It says for the actual age, it's got 1905 to 1966.
Right, there was, I guess there's different parts of additions in there.
Okay. So do you know per square foot in terms of
We've
what
worked
was
out the effective age based on the square footage. So
Right.
whatever was constructed at what time, it increased the effective age.
Okay. So do you take into consideration that your other properties, the oldest one you have is 1966?
Well, because the effective age was 1960.
I'm thinking in terms of the cap. Yeah, I'm thinking in terms of the cap rate.
No, I picked the comparables that were similar, so yeah.
Did you have pictures of the comparables?
No, I don't have the
Sorry.
no, but we can pull them up right now if you want. We have the web here.
Sure.
Yeah. So just in Google Maps, if you do a street view of the buildings, you should be able to see them. So Maud would be one that is in pretty.
I can't, I have to sign into Chrome.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for the offer. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Linkletter. Mr. McIntyre, any questions of the assessor?
Yes, I do. If I go to your rent comparisons, the two on Terren and the one on Mission Street, are they located in St. Boniface?
Yes, they are.
So they're,
It's the same market region though. I believe it was market region 3.
it just seems that they're quite a.
They're not in Point Douglas.
Right, okay. And is Maud Street in Point?
Mont is off of Logan on the other side of Salter, but that is the same market region. As it's not the NCA is not the same.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Okay, so Mr. Assessor, so we are doing the income approach to value based on the square footage of the 4 buildings, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
The leasable area, not the total.
Right, okay. And my understanding is this owner does own the land contiguous to the subject property, but it is broken up into different roll numbers, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So access is not an issue for this particular owner, is that fair to say?
I don't believe so.
It's part of the business of the other 3 properties. I guess they're all related to this.
Correct.
This is one component.
Yeah. So maybe if I could, I could point out the other parcels if you want.
Okay, yes, please.
On page 9 at the top there, So the whole block on the left side is owned by the owner.
Okay,
And then 16 Sutherland, which is a little square block right on the right-hand side of, I believe it's, sorry, I can't read the street name there, but it's number 16 Sutherland. And then the one that looks like a T there, that's owned by the owner also.
okay. And how far off Main Street are we, east of Main?
We are almost right to the end.
We're down at the end of Sutherland, like towards Sutherland,
If we go straight down Sutherland, it's almost to the end there.
to Disraeli Bridge, yeah.
Past the
About 4 blocks from the Louise Bridge.
four blocks.
4 blocks east of Main Street? Okay, yeah, I've got it now, that's okay, okay.
Actually, on the map on page 8 shows the.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, okay. That was all my questions. Okay, sir, when you are ready, please present your evidence. I believe you've kind of gone through the assessor, and I think we've all listened to what you've had to say about the road, but go ahead and explain why you think the assessment is wrong. Or do you, I'm not sure if you do think the assessment is wrong, because you kind of made a statement there that you thought the value might be right. But anyway, go ahead, sir. Maybe you could clarify that for us. Go ahead, sir. You can start, sir, to present your evidence.
Well, if I might, there's a history of this property, and the reason it's a rental property today. It's because 64 years ago, this property was purchased, and I was part of the management group at the time, and we remained in business as Western Scrap Metals until 1972. In 1972, because of the family situation, the properties that were listed for Western Scrap Metals at the time were put into a trust and rolled over into a special company called WSM Investments. And then there was an intercompany lease arranged, and based on that, we've been operating as Western Scrap Metals Inc. and paying lease payments to WSM Investments. To all intents and purposes, it's still a family business, and we've been operating there since. So I have personal knowledge of what the conditions were on the ground literally from day one. And previous to our operating it, this particular piece of property, excluding the lot where the house stood on, was operated for 6 or 7 years as a coal yard. So that's what the history I've got on the property. But over the years, as the business developed, the traffic increased, and it was necessary for us to be able to handle the amount of customers on that street that were available to us. We needed the doorways because the way the building was originally built, we had to have various access to the warehouse, to the other pieces of property. And because we're handling different types of scrap at different times, the warehouse is equipped with scale and processing equipment. And the truck scale is located within 10 feet of the building, which fronts onto Sutherland Avenue. And none of the properties that we operate from has any frontage whatsoever on Sutherland Avenue. So the road is our main opportunity our customers have for doing business with they have to come in and operate, come into our property on those things. Now, over the years and the increasing use of the street deteriorated. In one year, about 1965 or 70, the city was paving the street down the street. And in those days, they didn't recycle the material that they removed from the street. And I imposed on some of the workers over there something to see if they couldn't just drop something on the street for us to improve the quality of the street, which they were kind enough to do. But then after a couple of years, that deteriorated and fell apart. And so we were left with a street that when it rained, it was soft and soggy. And in the spring, when the snow came, it was just a mud hole. And I must say that over the years, in spite of the fact we've been paying taxes on this properties for 60 years, the fact is we don't get garbage pickup. We don't get the street plowed. We have our own forklift little plow and we plow the street, because otherwise we might be sitting there for God knows how long. And so what I'm really saying is that the street is our livelihood. And over the years, especially within the last 10 years, I've made inquiries as to, as I said before, I wanted to see if I could rent the street, close it off and improve it, or if the city was interested in selling it. But I was also told, never mind what I was also told, in any event, it got so bad that several years ago, we had customers who were telling us they weren't going to come to us anymore because they couldn't get in. And if they could get in, they were getting stuck. And not only that, but the neighbors were complaining because they said we were dragging mud out of our yard and putting it on Sutherland Avenue, which to a certain extent was true, but the mud wasn't coming out of our yard, it was coming out off the street. So this is an unusual situation.
Okay.
But we're looking for some relief. And quite honestly, at some point in time, I would hope that the city would improve it. I mean, we're not asking to put a concrete street in there. That's very expensive, and both for us and for the city. I'm not sure it's worth that, but certainly improving the street to a point that you can run traffic on it without having to get stuck is not, it's not unwarranted.
Okay, sir, it's beyond this panel's control or jurisdiction to have anything done about that street. What we're looking at is if the assessor or you believe that obviously the assessor believes that the lot that we're dealing with, the land that we're dealing with, and the buildings are worth $189,000 if they were put into the marketplace. Your complaint is about the certain access, I guess, to the property. Mr. Dost Mohammed has stated that he did come from another way, so we'll weigh that evidence also. But what do you think the value is? Do you think that the value at $189,000 is accurate? Or from what you said, you just want tax relief or reduced assessment because of the street? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Well, the truth is, if I as an individual was looking forward to acquiring this property, whether it's by lease or purchase, certainly the fact that there wasn't ongoing access to the property in a reasonable fashion would certainly make the property less valuable.
Okay.
Also might have different use for the property,
Okay. Yes, so that is your point that you want to present to us. Okay. I think we've got a clear picture here. Mr. Das Mohammed, any questions of the appellant?
No.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Linkletter?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McIntyre?
And I have no questions, thank you.
So, sir, can I ask you, I would like to ask you a couple of questions. Sir, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. So you said there's a lease in place. What is the lease?
It's a triple net lease,
Okay, and what is
long-term lease.
okay, and what is the rate that's leased for?
Late-
I know it sounds like it's not arm's length, but I'm just curious what it is.
Sorry?
It sounds like it's not arm's length, but I'm curious as to what the lease is.
Because
What is it? What is the value? What are you paying per square foot or getting per square foot?
$10,800 a year.
Pardon me?
$10,800 a year.
10,800 per year? That's triple net, okay.
It's a total of all the land that we lease.
But just to understand, that's between, this is part of this roll number is part of a business that is sitting on those, than your other adjacent properties, is that right?
Well, yes, the lease includes, let's see, on page 8, there's a figure A, which to the west of this particular piece of property, and it includes the T-shaped piece of property that shows, I think,
So the lease is for more than the subject property we're dealing with, is that accurate?
I'm sorry, sir.
The lease is for more than the actual subject property that we're dealing with right now. It encompasses other components.
Well, the lease and the figure I quoted you covers all the property previously.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay, thank you. So now just to clarify, if you don't believe the $189,000 is an accurate estimate of market value based on the income approach, what do you think that this panel should reduce the assessment to? What value do you think the assessment should be at if you think 189,000 is not right?
Well, quite honestly, I thought that the board might be able to tell me what they considered under the circumstances, not relative to the facts and figures that they presented, but based on something that might be reasonable based on the fact. And if the city would see in their wisdom to improve the quality of the street, then I would understand that the value of the property would rise. And the other thing is, seeing as I improved the city street, I wouldn't mind recovering the cost that we have improved the city street so that it can be driven on.
Okay. All right. So that's my only questions. Anything either party would like to summarize, Mr. Assessor?
No, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Sir, I think you presented your case of what you're asking for and why you think the assessment should be reduced. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I feel that in the past, when I've had questions of this sort of the city, I've always felt that we were treated fairly and reasonable in the settlements of the figures that we came to. And I'm hoping that a similar situation would arise here.
Okay.
I guess you might say that what I'm looking for is because I'm looking for perhaps the credit for the amount of money that we spent to put the street in shape so it can be used, period. And I would like a reduction in the assessed value of the property relative to the problems that the street creates for us.
Okay. Okay, thank you. We'll consider all the evidence presented by both parties, and you hear from us as soon as possible, sir. You may leave now if you wish. Thank you. That concludes 16 Sutherland Avenue today.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just bear with me 1 second, please. Next property on the docket is going to be 644 Aaron Street. And we're dealing with, excuse me, a 2021 Realty Assessment Appeal. And we have the agent, Mr. Oliveris, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
Belen, could you swear in Mr. Oliveris, please?
Please state your full name.
Ryan Oliveros.
You affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Okay, so
Good afternoon.
we're going to start with 644 Aaron Street. Mr. Das Mohammed, when you are ready, please.
Okay, Board of Revision file number 20-498. Roll number is 130-111-42100. Address is 644 Aaron Street. Roll year is 2021. Reference date is April 1st, 2018. There's two components to this building. There's a residential and an industrial. The residential is valued at or assessed at $90,000, and the industrial is assessed at $304,000 for a total of $394,000. So this was appealed earlier this year. We had an assessment, a total assessment of $431,000 for the 2020 and 2021 roll year. It was revised after the Assessment Taxation Department recommended a value of $394 as a total. So the property is industrial with a mix of residential. There's one building, there's three premises, 2 stories. Actual year built and effective year is 1975. Wall height is 15. Zoning is M1 manufacturing light. Land area is 4,941 square feet. Plan area is 3,333 square feet. The gross floor area is 4,306 feet, and the leasable area is 3,300 square feet. Land to plan area is 1.48 to 1. On the following page, you can see that there was a sale approximately 16 years prior to the reference date for $175,000. So the income and expense questionnaire is on page 17. So you can see the leases in place right now and the income and the expenses that were reported. Now on page 3 is my comparables. So all comparables are industrial properties. All comparables are located in the same market region as the subject. All leases are current in relation to the reference date. Effective ages range from 1954 to 1978. Wall heights range from 14 feet to 17 feet. Leasable areas range from 1,700 square feet to 5,500 square feet. And the net rents range from $8 per square feet to $10.53 per square feet net. So these are the comparables for the industrial portion. On the following page, I have comparables for the residential portion. So again, all comparables are located in the same market region as the subject. Effective ages range from 1950 to 1980. The subject is approximately 973 square feet, the residential component, and the comparables range in size from 746 square feet to 2,014 square feet. Average monthly rents range from $648 a month to $871 a month. And all the rental rates are current in relation to the reference date. So on the following page, there's our workup for the industrial portion. We're utilizing an overall net rental rate of $8.21 per square foot. We're allowing for 6% vacancy. We're allowing for 2% non-recoverable expenses as per our non-recoverable study on page 21. We're allowing for a vacancy shortfall of $3.75 per square foot. This results in a NOI of $24,216. We're utilizing a cap rate of 7.1%. That gives us a capitalized value of $341,070. And as I mentioned before, we've revised the assessment to $304 on the industrial component. On the following page is our workup for the residential component. So we're utilizing a rent of $689.68 per month. We're allowing for 2.6% vacancy rate. We're allowing just over 51% for an expense rate. This results in an NOI of $3,943. We're utilizing a 4% cap rate. That gives us a rounded capitalized value and a assessed value of $90,000. So on the following page is the summary of the income value. So as I said before, we had assessed it at $430,684, rounded to $431,000. And with the revised assessment, it was revised to $3,994,000. So if you turn to page page 8, there is the from earlier this year, the board order. So you can see it went from 431,000 to 394,000. The residential component remained the same. We adjusted the assessed amount on the industrial component. On page 10 is the calculation we worked out to come up with that value. We utilized a net rent of $7.35, with all the other parameters remaining the same. So on page 14 is the on page 14 is the map of the subject. Underneath that is the parcel boundaries. On the following page is an overhead shot of the building, front and back. And then on page 16, there's the front street view and the rear view of the building. And yes, the lot size is not that big, but it is zoned as M1 manufacturing light, which so as per the definition states that all, I'll just read it out to you. So M1 district is intended to provide for light manufacturing process, service, storage, wholesale, and distribution operations. All operations contained within an enclosed building with some limited outside storage. So as you can see, the building is zoned properly. So going back to our value of 394, we believe this is a fair assessment of the building, and it was actually confirmed earlier, like I mentioned, in for the 2020 appeal, and we are just asking for confirmation for the 2021 appeal also. And I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Assessor. I will read right now rules about participating via Zoom. Please note that when you join the meeting via Zoom, all participants will be in the waiting room and your microphone will be muted until the host lets you in the room. You can watch the hearing live via the city's Board of Revision YouTube channel. When called upon, you will be allowed from the waiting room and permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once you have been heard, you can continue to watch the hearing live via the city's Board of Revision YouTube channel. If any participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute your audio player now. Okay. So, Mr. Oliveros, do you have any questions on the assessed evidence presented?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so just looking at the subject property here, you would agree that the land to building ratio for the subject property is quite low?
No, it's rated M1, so it's proper.
Okay, it's okay. Yeah, it is proper, but would the lower land to building ratio not limit the market to to the types of tenants that they would attract?
No, it's zoned M1, so that's what it's zoned for. There's no outside operations allowed for M1.
Okay, all right. Looking at your rent comparables, would you happen to know the zoning designations for each of these?
Not here. No, I don't have them.
Okay, how about the land to building ratios for each of them?
I don't have it with me.
Okay. All right. I do just want to let the panel know that I do have rebuttal evidence that you should have received. So I suppose that after questioning, I will get I will present my rebuttal if that's okay.
Okay. Excuse me, Mr. Oliveros.
Yes.
Ellen, do we have access to that information? The rebuttal?
Yes, I'll send that to you right now.
Okay, thank you. In the meantime, Mr. Oliveros, any other questions before rebuttal is presented?
Yes, just a few more here. So looking at the residential component, the fact that it's on top of an industrial, the fact that it's a second floor residential, the main floor is used for industrial purposes, would that not also limit the market for that unit that's on the second floor?
Is it rented currently?
I believe post-reference it is, yes, but on the 2017 INE, it does state that it was owner-occupied at the time.
Okay, so I don't believe that it would limit. No, I don't believe that.
Okay. All right. Just going to your actually, that is all my questions. I will save questions regarding the cap rate study for the second property that we have here.
Okay, but they are individual appeals, so maybe you should ask your question regarding this one, please.
For sure. So for I see here on pages, okay, let me see what they were. If we go to your cap rate evidence that you presented starting on page, to go to your cap rate evidence starting on page, so I'm just scrolling over here. Starting on the external industry report, starting on appendix page number 2. So I do recognize that the highlighted portion that there's some positive outlook looking at the industrial sector. However, did you review the section below saying that there is competition emanating from the other RMs, which would you agree that would increase competition for these properties that we're looking at today?
In general, the market in Winnipeg has been a landlord's market. So there is not very much industrial properties current, or as in 2018, there was not very much available space.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, well, here, I'll just read it out. So the industrial market in Winnipeg continues to be a landlord's market with available products still at a minimum. The industrial leasing market in Winnipeg was very active in 2017 as there continues to be more users than available space. So,
Okay.
so whether there is space there or not, there was not very much space. So, I mean, buildings were getting rented out.
Okay, but you would agree with me that the landlords would have known as of the reference date of the upcoming stock coming onto the market.
No.
But it does say that in your evidence, does it not, on appendix page 2, where it says there continues to be a shortage of zone service shovel-ready industrial land in Winnipeg, which is preventing new market from coming onto the market. Over the last few years, however, industrial parks have started to spring up surrounding rural municipalities and other areas close to the city. For example, there's a new 100-acre park in the R.M. McDonald in Southwest Winnipeg and a handful of other small pockets of land in the surrounding areas. So it appears that they would have known about this information, correct?
That would be post-reference, right?
Okay.
So as of 2018, April 1st, that was not online, right?
Okay, when's the date of the evidence here?
April 1st, 2018 is the reference date.
Okay. Maybe I'll get that to my maybe I'll mention that in my cap rate evidence then, that it was known. Okay. So that's all my questions right now. So I guess we'll move on to my rebuttal evidence. Oh, sorry, I guess the panel would like to ask some questions beforehand.
Yes, we'll deal with the questions of the evidence presented so far. Yes, thank you. Ms. Linklater, any questions of the assessor's evidence presented so far?
Yes, I just have a question in regards to the second floor rental. How long has that been a residence?
I'm not sure. I just got this file. I don't know who was the last assessor who did the 2020. I'm not sure.
So you didn't inspect it?
No, maybe the applicant can,
Sure.
yeah.
But, so just out of curiosity, because you read out this statement that it's a landlord's market with available product still at a minimum. I'm just curious as to why this individual or why the second floor would be turned into a residence.
I'm not sure.
And it's such an odd location.
From personal experience, I can tell you my dad had an apartment building where the bottom was all commercial and the top was all residential. So I don't know. Yeah.
To me, it's just very
Maybe
odd after reading the
it
statement.
could have been a mezz at one time and they've turned it into residential. I don't know. I think the applicant mentioned it was owner occupied. Yeah.
At one point, yes. Okay, thank you.
Is that all, Ms. Linklater? Mr. McIntyre, any questions of the assessor?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Das Mohammed, I'm looking at page 15 regarding the income and expense statement submitted. Just bear with me, I'm going to pull it up here. So the, I think we're on page, no, pardon me, page 17, income and expense statement. So pardon me, page 18. So there are 4 income producing commercial units on the main floor, and then there's a residential suite upstairs. Is that right?
Yeah, I think there's 2 income producing in the bottom. There was, it looks like there was vacancy and then it was leased again.
Okay.
And the top is 1 residential.
Yeah. Okay. And that's that would be and so you take that residential component and you treat it as I'm trying to find where you came up with the residential component value.
My
So
com-
it would have been done as a kind of an apartment unit. Is that
Right.
right?
Right, so my comparables for the residential were on page 4,
Okay.
and then the workup was on page 6.
Okay. Would you just bear with me, please? Okay. So page 4. Okay. So you treated it as an apartment. Okay. And you assigned it a rent of $690 a month approximately. Okay, I see. Expenses 51.09 and capped it at 4.4%. Okay. So that's 90,000 and that would be the revised recommendation value from the 2020 appeal. Would that be accurate?
No, the 2020, the residential was not revised, so it stayed at 9.
Oh, okay.
The industrial was revised.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because the Board of Revision decision is on the following pages 8 and 9. Okay. And the workup is there. Okay. So the assessor attending that hearing, Mr. Lobenstein, made the recommendation at the hearing. Is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Verbal recommendation. Okay.
And calculations are on page 10.
Yes. Okay. So he revised at that time the rental rate, I believe. Was that the adjustment?
Correct, yes.
Okay. The right. Okay. All right. So the board decision does read different classifications for the residential and the commercial components. Is that right? Current role?
Yes.
Okay. So the role on page 2 is okay, 20, right. Okay, class code 10 and class code 60. Perfect. Okay, now I've got a clear understanding here of what happened. All right. Those are my only questions. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, now we've got the appellant presenting rebuttal evidence. Is that right, sir?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, Mr. Oliveris, let's just bear with me for 1 second and I'm going to find your rebuttal evidence, if you don't mind here.
Yes, there's 2 packages. Mind you, the rebuttal evidence for the assessor's rent comparables, as well as rebuttal evidence for the for their cap rate study.
Okay. Okay, so I've got it right. Okay, yes, thank you. Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, so we'll start off with the document for the assessor's rent comparables. I'm not too sure what name you guys are seeing on your document here, but it should state on the cover page 644 Aaron Street, roll number with the roll number, of course, and rebuttal evidence. I just want to communicate if this is what the panel is seeing right now.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, looking at 1556 Aaron Street on page 2 of my rebuttal evidence, single occupant, 2,170 square feet, older building than the subject with 12-foot wall height. However, it is 6,555 square feet of land with a land to building ratio of 3:1. It's a non-arm's length lease, actually. So the business owner, Groundstar Systems, has the same principles as the registered owner, which is Ware Holdings, and they also occupy the adjacent property at 1325 Clifton Street. Going to page 3 of my brief, there's 2 photos there and then just 2 bullet points on page 4. To Flex Warehouse, I actually attend the gym, one of the gyms that's located at this property. And yeah, so just state that it is a fitness facility there. And 35,744 square feet of land area with a land to building ratio of 1.5 to 1. However, in my opinion, if you see the aerial view of the of this specific comparable, that the layout of the site itself is a bit more advantageous than what we see for the subject property. And if you want to reference the map, or you can also reference my brief. Sorry, my computer just froze here a little bit. If you want to reference my brief on page 2, you can see that the layout of the subject property is more advantageous than the, the layout of the rent comparable is more advantageous than the subject. And going on to page 5, I believe I use this as a comp as well, but we can also see here that it's a much larger land area with the 2.59 land to building ratio. Going to page 7 of my brief. It's a single tenant industrial warehouse. They manufacture premium vodka spirits. The rent does include basement storage and all lands. It has a large fence compound with a 6.53 to 1 land to building ratio. Going to page 8 of my brief, land area for 930 Bradford Street for the assessor's rent comps. We have a 21,908 square foot land area with an approximate land to building ratio of 4.49. Now the assessor, it looks like, sorry, the brief just closed on me here. Let me just pull it up again. Now you can see that the comparables that the assessor has used, even at the low range, in my opinion, they seem to be superior to the subject property. So based on my evidence, I feel that that a downward adjustment to the rental rate for the subject property is warranted. And I am open for questions on my rebuttal evidence. Unless we wanted to go through my cap rate rebuttal evidence first.
No, I think we're going to have questions. We'll deal with the rebuttal evidence first.
Okay.
Mr. Das Mohammed, any questions on the rebuttal evidence presented by the appellant?
Yes. 11111. First of all, you would agree that we're utilizing a rent of $8.21?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So 111 Winnipeg Avenue, suite number 2. Your overhead shot, you say it's more advantageous. Why is that?
Well, we can see the orientation of it. If we look at the subject property, it looks like you could probably only fit about 6 cars there. And if you look at 1111 Winnipeg, again, I attend that gym. There's much more space to maneuver there. We can even see on page 3 of my brief, the street view of the comparison that, they'll have better access to the overhead doors and.
So the 111 Winnipeg is a multi-tenant with more than 2 units, right?
More than 2 units, yes.
Okay. So does it have a back lane?
It does not have a back lane, no.
Okay. So in the front, there's just parking for each unit, right?
There is, I believe it's a shared lot.
Okay. And then 825 Aaron, you mentioned. Do you know the land to building ratio on that one?
The land to building ratio on Aaron is 2.59 to 1.
And do you know what the zoning is on that?
I don't have it noted here, unfortunately.
Okay, those are all my questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dastan Mohammed. Mr. McIntyre, any questions of the appellant's rebuttal evidence?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linkletter?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions either. Mr. Oliveris, when you're ready, your presentation, please.
Oh, I still have rebuttal evidence for the capitalization rate study.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, that's okay. There's quite a few documents.
Yeah, there's two documents. Here we go. Okay.
Okay.
I've got it now. I apologize. Okay.
No, that's okay. Okay, so our rebuttal evidence for the assessor's cap rate study here. So 90 Park Lane, we do want to note that this property was purchased vacant. So it appears that looking at that, here's the proof that to show that it was vacant at time of sale. So the trust, they purchased it with the intention of the subsequent purchaser being the owner occupier of the property, and this is what it's stated in. This is what is stated on the purchase dispositions that you will see on pages 2 and starting on page 5, which is the highlighted portion, and it does read this.
Are you on the study? Which file am I supposed to have open here?
Oh, sorry. So the Altus BOR rebuttal evidence. The name of the rebuttal evidence, I believe, on here, and actually don't have it here. It looks like just the.
Okay, so
second. I think the files were renamed, so.
There's 7.
Sorry.
There's 7 pages total.
Yes.
There are 7 pages total. Yes.
Okay, I have it.
Okay, so looking at that highlighted portion, so the trust was able to relocate the existing tenant from this asset to another trust-owned asset, and the tenant expanded its gross leasable area by over 80% and signed a new long-term lease, thus reducing overall vacancy and increasing the trust weighted average lease term in Winnipeg. The timing of the sale of this asset was tied to the relocation, thus removing any downtime to the trust, and the asset was unencumbered at the time of sale and was not classified as an asset held for sale. So looking at the assessor's brief, I'm not too sure how they would have come up with the NOI. Possibly a question I should have asked there, but that's what we have for 90 Park Lane. Going to 1100 Waverly Street. So this property, I've also been to this property, specifically the laser tag portion. But it's not a pure industrial property. As you can see here, the different types of tenants they have. So they have a restaurant, engineering group, education, resource center, laser tag. And yeah, just a few more. We have some office properties, but not a pure industrial property as you would typically see used as a cap rate comparison. And that concludes my presentation for my cap rate rebuttal evidence.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oliveris. Pardon me. Mr. Das Mohammed, any questions on the evidence or the rebuttal?
Sorry, I totally missed 90 Park Lane, what the argument was. You asked how we calculated NOI?
Yeah, yes, just because we believe it was vacant as of the time of sale. So just curious how the NOI would have come about for something that was vacant at the time of sale. Typically, when you come up with the NOI for a sale, there's usually at least 3 years of income history available. If I'm not mistaken.
So prior to the sale, it was vacant at the time of sale, but prior to that, it was being leased, was it not? We would have had 3 years of income expense data for that. And that's how we worked out the NOI. This argument was brought up before by your colleagues, but we've explained this before.
Okay. All right.
Would you mind giving this panel an explanation, please?
We have income and expense data for 90 Park Lane. It may have been vacant at the time when it was sold, but prior to that, it was leased, and that's how we were able to come up with the NOI for that.
Okay, thank you.
Just another question, actually. So how recent were the leases in place before it went vacant?
I don't have it in front of me, but it was recent. It may have not been that month that it was sold. I do have the we do have the information. That's how we were able to work out the NOI.
Okay, but Did you provide that in your evidence at all?
I didn't.
Okay.
Like, how do you know it was vacant at the time?
Believe here the asset was unencumbered at the time of sale.
I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. McIntyre, any questions of the rebuttal evidence for capitalization rates?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linkletter?
I have no questions.
Thank you. And I have no questions either. Okay, Mr. Oliveris, I'm just going to find your presentation. When you're ready, please.
So the subject property at 644 Erin Street. So I understand that we did reach an agreement with the assessment department for the 2020 realty assessment. However, we are dealing with a number of properties during that time. For this appeal, we have taken a closer look at the subject property, and that's evidenced by the rent comparables that I have provided, and also with the cap rate that I have applied. We reanalyzed that as well, and we felt that adjustments were warranted, especially for the cap rate. So the subject property, it was built in 1975. It's a 1-story plus 2-story masonry building used for industrial purposes on the main floor, with a 973 square foot second floor, 973 square foot residential portion on the second floor. And this description is also found on page 3 of my brief. I provide exterior photos of the subject, which can be found on page 13. The land area is 4,941 square feet, and the site is zoned M1 industrial and has a low land to building ratio of 1.48 to 1. And just going to now page 7 of my brief, we're applying an overall rate per square foot of $7.35 based on the actual semi-gross rents which were in place. So our strategy towards this, because the residential portion was owner occupied, what we did to come up with the rents to come up with a net rent for each of the individual industrial units was we used the shortfall rate of $3.75 and deducted that from the semi-gross rents, as you could see again on page 6 of my brief. In support of the overall net rents we have applied, we did conduct market research, and we identified the following lease comparables, and they are on page 7 of my brief. And I do have photos of each of these of the rent comparables on page 14. We have effective ages ranging from 1955 to 1977. They are all multi-tenant. Wall heights are ranging from 11 feet to 21 feet. Land to building ratio of 1.6 to 3.99. We have applied the non-recoverable expense allowance of 5%. Now I'm happy to go through our non-recoverable expense study, but I'm sure we've all heard it a number of times, so I will present it upon the board's request. And for the cap rate, we have applied an 8% cap rate for the subject. So because we are adjusting the cap rate, there are a few points that I want to make about this property, just referring to my cap rate to the cap rate study that I've submitted today. So if I can get you all to pull that portion, or pull up that brief if you don't mind. And if I guess if you can all just let me know when you're ready.
So what page would be, I guess we're going into appendix.
I believe the cap rate study was, I submitted the cap rate study as a separate document.
Okay. Do the panel members have access to that document?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, here we are. Okay, I'm good too. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Oliveris.
All right. So just again, in support of the 8% cap rate. So looking at page 3 of our industrial cap rate study, the Bank of Canada, their interest rates have increased. Page 4, the national cap rates is just showing that the national cap rates have leveled out by Q1 of 2018. And page 5, this is what I had hoped to question the assessor on. But just looking at the cap rate study here, there was significant development and expansion that was underway with ongoing development of Centerport Canada lands, offering more than 20,000 acres of high quality industrial land and space for both sale or lease within the city of Winnipeg, just outside the city's boundaries. The lands within Centerport, which include the RM of Rosser, were being developed and sold as early as 2012, with development being buoyed by the construction of Centerport Canada Way. So you can see that the development in the RMs that are causing competition within the industrial marketplace was known as of the reference date. Page 6, there's further development southwest of Winnipeg in the RM of McDonald, and only 1/3 of new industrial land was developed within the city of Winnipeg boundaries. So these new developments, again, they would impose an additional risk to industrial investment across Winnipeg, and in particular to older industrial properties, as the subject that we are discussing now would fall into that category. So I'll just skip on to page 13 here. So the cap rate that we've applied based on our cap rate study here is 8%. This is not this would not be considered an investment grade property. It would more so fall within the non-investment grade. So that is why we have applied an 8% cap rate for the subject. And so for the industrial portion of the subject property, so now I'm gonna have you all flip back to my brief for 644 Aaron. Going to page 9. All factors considered, we're asking the board to reduce the assessed value for the industrial portion to $256,000. For the residential portion, we are not disputing the net operating income applied by the assessor in this case. However, we do believe that based on our cap rate study, that the cap rate that should be applied for the subject is 6%. Again, it's on top of an industrial property. Well, we've all heard that there is currently a tenant in there, but as of the reference date, it appears that it was owner occupied. So with that being said, we ask that the cap rate be adjusted to 6%, which would bring the value to the residential portion of the subject property to $66,000. So again, overall, we are asking the board to reduce the 2021 realty assessment for the subject property for the class code 60 portion to $256,000. And for the residential portion, we're asking the board to reduce the assessed value from $90,000 to $60,000. And that concludes my presentation. I am open for questions.
Okay, Mr. Oliveris, pardon me. Thank you. Maybe I'll pipe in here right now. You just summarized your revision from page 16, or pardon me, page 11. And I believe in your brief, you're saying you're requesting a revision of the class code 10 portion from 90,000 to 66,000 rather than 60,000.
66,000. I think I stated 66 in both.
I think you said 60, but okay, I'm just clear.
Sorry about that.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay. So, Mr. Das Muhammad, any questions of the appellant's evidence?
Yes. So your cap rate of 8%, do you have any evidence to show that there's 8% cap rate out there?
I don't believe I do, but it looks like these would have fallen in the investment category or investment grade category. But again, this is non-investment grade. So that's why we have applied an 8% cap rate.
But you don't know what a non-investment grade cap rate would be?
I don't believe there's anything in my evidence that would show that.
On page 11 of my brief, this was the workup that was presented for the 2020 appeal. In there, you have a cap rate of 7.75, and then you've revised it for the 2020, although the reference date is the same, April 1st, 2018, for both.
Yes, I have. Again, we took a second look at it. This definitely would not fall under the investment grade category. And there is multiple definitions, which I didn't state in my presentation here, but it is stated on my brief that Class A product with single tenants property Class A product would typically be between 50 to 100,000 square feet. Class B, 25,000 to 100,000. And it also states here that, and I'm looking at page 11 of my cap rate study now, given these respective definitions, it's clear that there would be many industrial properties in Winnipeg that would be considered as inferior to those in the Class B category, and only a very few properties would be considered as Class A. As has been noted by several industrial brokers and investors, the Winnipeg industrial real estate market is often viewed as under-demolished. So looking at these definitions, this property would definitely not fall under investment grade A or B. So that's why we've chosen to revise the cap rate today.
And I just want to confirm that you did say that you or your colleague accepted the recommendation that was provided by the Assessment Taxation Department?
Yes, but again, we took a second look at it because the owner wasn't comfortable actually with the increase. So that is why we appealed it today, and we felt that looking at the evidence again, that a further adjustments were warranted, upward adjustment for the cap rate, and I guess looking at the agreement, it looks like we agreed on $7.35 at that time. But I know I will state this, that when we accept agreements, it's on the value only, to be fair, and not exactly how we came to that valuation. So.
And one last thing, did you say it was owner occupied still?
Not the residential portion, no, but the two industrial portions are tenant occupied.
So there's no owner occupied right now?
No owner occupied right now, no.
Oh, sorry, at the reference date, was there owner occupied?
I can't confirm that on the 2017 INE here. Let me just pull it up. See when their end date was. Sorry, I just have to scroll down a few pages. So looking at the lease end date. So as far as I know, it was likely owner occupied, but I'm not too sure what it would have been as of the reference date.
Okay, those are all the questions I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McIntyre, any questions of the appellant?
I just have one question, observation. So you did state that your firm agreed with the recommendation for the 2020, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Why wouldn't you take it to the municipal board?
That's a good question. It's likely that we might have actually missed the deadline at that point. But I'm not too, it's a great question. Actually, I'm not too sure why we wouldn't have appealed it to the municipal board. But the owners to us have stated that they were not happy with the increase, even with the revised assessment. They felt that the value was still too high. And again, that might have been because we missed the deadline date, but I can't say with absolute certainty what the reason was.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Ms. Linkletter, any questions?
No questions,
Thank you. Mr. Oliveris, I'm just trying to, okay, let's deal with the residential portion of your workup, please. So I believe you said you're accepting the assessor's NOI, but using a different capitalization rate. Would that be fair?
That would be fair, yes.
Okay, and you're using for residential portion 6%, is that right? Yeah.
That is correct, yes, in accordance with our apartment cap rate study.
And for the commercial portion, you're using a market rent, estimated market value of $7.35 a square foot. And
That is correct, which, sorry.
Sorry, and you're capitalizing at 8%.
That is correct, yes. So we tried to use actuals in this case. So as stated on my brief on page 6, the rents that were in place were semi-gross, and we took the shortfall to come up with a rate of $7.35, which is further supported by our rent comps. And yes, the 8% cap rate, that is correct.
So you've used actuals, adjusted actuals, I guess, to come up with a net rent. Is that right?
Correct, yes. And it's stated on the owner's I&E statement that the rents were semi-gross.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is all my questions. Any requirement for summary, Mr. Assessor first?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oliveris?
Yes, just a quick summary. So we can see here just the main points that we have stated that the land to building ratio is low for the subject. And in my rent comparables, you could see that we do have much more advantageous land to building ratios, mix of zoning uses here, and we do fall within range. Considering the reduction in the land to build, considering the low land to building ratios, we feel that the rent is supported, and based on our cap rate study, we do feel that the cap rate is warranted as well. So I asked the board to again reduce the realty assessment for the industrial portion to $256,000, as well as the residential portion. We asked that the cap rate be adjusted to 6%, and that the assessed value be reduced to $66,000.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes 644 Aaron Street. And I believe I'm going to ask for a recess for about 7 minutes, a break for everybody. Is that good? Okay, so we'll recess for 7 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Belen. Okay, I now call the hearing back to order. Next property on the docket is 1309 Mountain Avenue. And again, Mr. Oliveris, I guess you're representing the clients here. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Bakdas Mohammed, when you are ready, please, 1309 Mountain Avenue. We're dealing with the 2021 Realty Assessment Appeal.
Okay, Board of Revision file number 20-543. Roll number is 14041655100. Address is 1309 Mountain Avenue. Roll year is 2021. Reference date is April 1st, 2018. Assessed value is $3,319,000. Underneath, you'll notice that it's industrial use. There's two buildings, 3 premises, 1 story. Actually, year built was between 1976 and 1977. We're utilizing an effective age of 19.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Das Mohammed. You know what? I've just realized that there's a
Non-compliance issue, yes.
non-compliance issue. I apologize. I missed it on my docket here. Are we proceeding with that?
Yes. Yeah. We're requesting that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation. If you turn to page 11 and 12, that was the income expense statement that was submitted. It was submitted online. On page 12, you'll notice that there's no income and expense information provided. We just have a tenant roll. So we don't know what was collected and what wasn't collected, what the expenses were. So it's materially incomplete.
Okay. I'm sorry, what page was that on?
Pages 11 and 12. So 11 is the name of the person who submitted that, and then on page 12 is the income and expense and the tenant roll.
Okay.
So the only thing on the income and expense side that's filled out is a check mark beside gross.
Okay. So the income and expense statement is what was received back.
It was received back, but it's not, it's materially incomplete.
Okay. All right. Okay. Mr. Oliveris, any comments regarding this non-compliance issue?
Yes, I do have. So I included the INE summary in my rebuttal evidence. I do just want the board to refer to that portion of my rebuttal for 1309 Mountain. So I'll give you all a second to pull that up, and then I'll ask my questions if that's okay.
Okay. So I am, if you just bear with me 1 second. Okay, so I guess we have two documents here, Mr. Oliveris. One is regarding the capitalization rate. Would that be correct? And the other one is, I'm just, what portion of the rebuttal would you be referring to?
That would be page 2 of the 1309 Mountain rebuttal.
Okay. Page 2.
Yeah, so I'm probably gonna ask my questions first, and then I'll move on, and then I'll tie in the rebuttal to my questions.
You know, I'm still trying to find page 2 or the appropriate. I still can't find the area that you're referring to. I've got 2 pages of your rebuttal. Both of them seem to be referring to rental rates and not dealing with the income and expense statement.
Okay, that's odd because I'm looking at the version of my rebuttal evidence for 1309 Mountain, which I had submitted on when was this? Which I had submitted on the 20, just yesterday actually. So I'm pulling up that actual.
Okay, so yeah. See, I don't have numbers on my pages here.
Okay, so so it'd be after the cover page maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Nope. No. So are you telling us that you're submitting the income and expense statement now?
No. Oh no. I'm just showing what was submitted in the past.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I can speak to it. I am under oath.
Yes,
but
please.
if the board considers this new evidence, then of course I will adhere to that. But
okay, just bear with me 1 second, please. I just received something.
don't you just love modern technology?
Yeah. No, it's okay. It's just a matter of me not finding it. I received.
Oh, no worries.
Anyway, you know what? Go ahead and proceed, and I'll be scanning this and listening to you at the same time.
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward, and you'll understand in my questioning for it. So I'll just move on to that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're dealing with the non-cooperation issue here, so go ahead, please.
Okay, so Arif, I apologize, I can't pronounce your last name. So one of the tenants, or sorry, one of the portions of the building, it's owner occupied. You would agree with me on that statement, correct?
I can't tell from your, yes, it is, yes.
Okay, thank you. And on their rent roll, which is on page 12 of your brief, they clearly state here what is not recovered, which is hydro, water, and HVAC.
Sorry, where do you see that?
So on page 12 of your brief,
Yeah.
looking at the rent roll statement here, it's what's checked off for the Sharon Routley portion and the Be Made Honey. We have what is included in the rent. It's semi-gross rent. I believe they communicated that quite clearly here, which is hydro, water, sewer, and HVAC. Is that correct for the 2 tenant-occupied properties or premises?
Sure.
Okay. So with that being said, we have semi-gross leases in place. We have one tenant, or sorry, not one tenant. We have one portion of the property that is owner occupied. We wouldn't reasonably be able to calculate a net rent based on the fact that one portion is owner occupied, correct?
So are you saying
Based on the income statement, even if we did have it, we wouldn't be able to come up with a net rent, correct? We'd have to estimate that.
Are you saying that we were to calculate what the expenses and the income was?
Well, I'm saying to get down to a net rent, would that not have to be estimated? Just because the owner occupied, or just because one portion of the building is owner occupied. So typically when that happens, an estimate would need to take place, such as how we did for 644 Erin Street.
Well, all I'm saying is, according to the Act, on page 7 of my brief, it says that the assessor may request information, and that information can be income or expense related to the use of the property. And what we're saying is we haven't received any of that. And the Act clearly states on section 53.2 that the board shall put the burden of proof on the applicant if we don't receive that info.
Okay, but when we're dealing with a property where it's partially owner occupied, that the income statement, the availability of the income statement and interpreting anything, any values within there, wouldn't that be essentially moot because we wouldn't be able to come down to a net rent?
We use these income and expense statements to figure out what the actual expenses are. This is how we come up with our non-recoverable expenses. This is where we use all this information. So if we don't get information from, if we didn't get information from all the residents of the city, we wouldn't be able to work out our stats on this.
Okay, but okay, so okay,
And
thank you.
to your point, the owner occupies less than or around half the building. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And the building is how big? 40, almost 50,000 square feet.
Almost 50,000 square feet. Correct.
Yeah. So, like, we need the information for what the expenses are, what the revenues are, what is being covered. Some owners will put that it's net when it's actually gross, and some owners will put when it's gross when it's actually net. So we need to know all these numbers.
Okay. All right, fair enough. But so I mean, even with that being said, we can estimate the net rent. You do provide in your brief here, I believe, the business assessment. So for the industrial portions, or sorry, for anything that doesn't have air conditioning, you would agree with me that heat, electricity, and water, those standard occupancy costs work out to $2.10 a square foot, correct?
Sorry, I'm not following.
Okay, so if you go to the business assessment on page 13 of your brief,
Right.
The heat, electricity, and water portion of
Mr. Olaris, we're dealing with what the questionnaire was completed and submitted. It's obviously being submitted, but the assessor's contending that there's no information included in that submission. So we're not going to be looking at the business assessment at all.
Okay. Okay, I just saw that he included it in his brief, so, all right. But with that being said, that information is used to come up with the net rents for analysis purposes. Is that correct?
The BA is used for business assessments, not for realty.
Okay, but we typically can estimate what a net rent would be based on the occupancy cost for business assessment, which is $2.10 for.
Recoverable costs.
Sorry.
What are the non-recoverable costs?
The non.
What is the landscaping? Is there any depreciation? What's like? No, we.
Okay.
All we're saying is it's incomplete, and we couldn't figure out the information that we require.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, all right. Those are all my questions. I do just want to give this last statement, unless the board wants to ask questions first. Before I move on to that.
No, make your statement, please.
Okay. So I'd like to confirm here that the owner has complied in past years. It was only in 2017 that they didn't fill in the first page. They are clear about what is included in the rent, as you can see from the rent roll for the owner. So they are clear that it is semi-gross, and it can be estimated using a standard occupancy cost. That was our opinion, but I understand if the board doesn't want to take that into effect. But I believe it would be unfair if my client would be penalized in this sense.
Okay.
Chairman, I would just add that there's a reason why we asked for income and expense and rent roll, not just rent roll.
Okay. All right. Ms. Linkletter, any questions regarding the income and expense submitted and the request for non-cooperation?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre?
And I have no questions.
Okay. So, Mr. Das Mohammed, so we are looking on page, I'm looking on page 11. That is the submission that was, that is the income and expense submission that was submitted by the property owner or their accounting department or?
Yeah, the top part and the bottom is the rent roll. It's 2 pages. I just put them on 1 page.
Okay, so page 12 is the rent roll that they submitted?
So page 12 has 2 pages of the income and expense that was submitted and the rent roll. So
yeah.
The expense is the top part and the bottom part is the rent roll.
Right.
Okay. On an actual page, it would be 2 pages.
Right, okay. So we just confirm with me, page 11, it's blank, is that right?
Yeah, page 11 is the who submitted the.
Okay. And return history, return status, oh, okay. Now, and then page 12 is the actual income and expense statement. And all we see here is income type gross, and there are no income numbers submitted. Is that right? Except for, oh, I see. Okay, this I guess it would be the second page, wouldn't it be? Yeah, okay. Okay. Before we go in camera, recess and go in camera, does anybody have anything to add in this non-cooperation? Mr. Assessor, you would like to go first, please?
No, I'm just referred to the act that we did ask for information and it wasn't provided, and we feel that the burden of proof should be put on the applicant for this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Olivares?
Yeah, so I would like to add that my client did submit the income and expense. They did submit an income and expense questionnaire along with the rent roll, but they have substantially complied to the assessor's request. I believe that they have enough information to come up with their analysis, so I ask that the penalty be denied.
Okay, so just to clarify, Mr. Olivares, they have submitted income only, but not any expenses. Would that be fair?
Yes, that would be fair.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we're going to take a recess for a couple of minutes and go in camera and consider arguments presented by both parties. I would ask both parties to leave the room, please. Thank you. I will now call the hearing back to order. Okay, the panel has considered arguments presented by both parties, and it is our opinion that the non-cooperation request be allowed. So, Mr. Oliveris, you're going to, burden of proof is going to be on you. You're going to proceed. Can you please read in the details of the property, the subject property, please, including roll and file number and everything? Start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your time, Mr. Chair, regarding the non-compliance penalty, and to the rest of the panel members as well. Okay, so the subject property, look at 1309 Mountain Avenue. Roll number 14-04-1655-100. We're looking at the 2021 Realty Assessment Appeal. So going to page 3 of my brief, we have a light industrial manufacturing warehouse building in the Inkster Industrial Park on the north side of Mountain Avenue, just east of Fife Street. It is of masonry construction. The year built is 1976. Gross floor area of 49,590 square feet. The wall height is 19 feet with a clear height of 16 feet. I did inspect the owner-occupied portion of the subject. We have 3 spaces. We got the 2-story, 5,000 square foot office, the main floor of which is leased, and the second floor is owner-occupied. There's the front/middle manufacturing warehouse and a rear warehouse. So on page 4 of my brief, you can see from what I have provided that there is no designated loading areas for the subject property itself. Now, we do know that this is a multi-tenant building, so any semi-trailers that would transport goods in and out of this property, they would have to deal with possibly other semi-trailers coming in. And we can see from the layout of the subject, again, looking at page 4 of my brief, that we will definitely have some inefficient access egress when we have semi-trailers coming in and out of these properties. So just for the board to recognize that portion, that part of the property. The site, it's almost rectangular in shape. It has sort of a peculiar portion of the land that is included. We can see sort of the sharp edge on page 3 of my brief on the south, more so the northwest corner of the subject, but again, almost rectangular in shape. 93,569 square feet. It abuts a rail line, which would potentially limit its expansion. M2 industrial zoning with a land to building ratio of 2:1. On page 6 of my brief, we are disputing the market rents applied by the assessment department, or that have been generated by the model in this case. So on the bottom of page 6, we have provided lease comparables ranging from $7.82 a square foot to $15 a square foot for the office portion. We're coming in higher than the assessor here. We've applied a $12.50 per square foot rate for the office based on these comps. Index number 5 here for the main floor office comparables, again on page 6. That is a gross lease. We didn't have, I don't believe for that one we had enough information, but we would expect, of course, the net rate to be lower than $15. So moving on to the lease comparables for the warehouse portions of the subject. So I would like to say there was an error. It looks like there was a clerical error for the data entry portion for the comparable on Meridian Drive. That is incorrect. That is incorrect. It looks like the shortfall was maybe entered instead of the actual lease rate. So I asked the board to not consider that lease. That again, that was an error. We do recognize that. So moving on to the next comp here. So you can see that the areas of the lease comparables I've chosen are very close to the sizes of the warehouse portion of the subject property. The rents range from $3.12 a square foot to $7 per square foot. And the effective ages of the lease comps 1971 to 1999. We have some land building ratios that were available that we were able to find out here, 1.79 to 3.11. And just a few facts about the lease comparables that we've chosen to present to you today. There are photos of those lease comps starting on page 13 of my brief. So index number 7 on Church Avenue, we have a low wall height, but it appears to have, and also appears to be a low land to building ratio. It's irregularly shaped and it's considered inferior to the subject. So I believe we are coming in higher than that lease comp here. So we feel that, again, this will support that the lease comps we've chosen are fair. Index number 8, similar in age with a higher wall height at 22 feet, slightly higher land to building ratio and superior to the subject. Index number 9 on Inkster Boulevard, newer, higher wall height, similar land to building ratio, and it is superior, and we believe that this is superior to the subject. Index number 10 on Burroughs Avenue, similar age, low land to building ratio, similar wall heights. Index number 11, it's newer than the subject, designated parking and loading areas, higher wall height, and higher land to building ratio. Index number 12 on Church Avenue, similar in age, designated parking and loading areas, higher wall height, and a higher land to building ratio. So what I want to point out about the subject here, I stated this in my description of the property, that there is definitely inefficient ingress egress for the property itself. We can see that there may be some chaos caused here because the two warehouse portions of the subject are sharing a lot, whereas the subject lease comps, as you can see from the photos, they do have, majority of them do have their own designated areas for parking and as well as their loading areas. So that's the point I wanted to make here. The lease rates that we've applied, they were based on the actuals. We did use the business assessment to sort of estimate what the actuals would be, but based on the lease comps, we believe that because the loading areas for the subject and the fact that the subject does not have any designated loading or parking areas, that this would warrant a reduction in the lease rates that would be applied to the subject property. And this would be, the definition of this would be that it does have a functional obsolescence because of the layout. So we've chosen to apply a net market rent of $4.62 per square foot overall. And that brings us to a gross potential rent of $228,058 annually. We are not contesting the vacancy allowance applied by the city. We are not contesting the $3.75 per square foot shortfall rate. We have applied, again, the 5% non-recoverable expense allowance. And for the cap rate, we are coming in very close to the assessor at 7.25%. And we believe that based on our cap rate study for industrial properties, that this does accurately reflect the market view of the subject. And just to add, I presented some facts about my cap rate evidence, but I just want to add a very important point for the subject, for this subject in particular, is that if you drive about 5 to 10 minutes from the subject, you are going to reach the RM of Rosser, which is causing which again, this was known as of the reference date. So we believe that the landlords would expect, or any purchaser would expect there to be increased competition at that point, which would drive the cap rates up. So that's why we've applied a 7.25% cap rate. Again, it's very close to the assessor. So again, as usual, let the board decide on that. And with that being said, I conclude that we would request the board to reduce the 2021 realty assessment for the subject property to $2,734,000. And that concludes my presentation. I am open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliveris. Pardon me. Mr. Das Mohammed, any questions of the appellant's evidence presented?
Yes. So I just want to clarify, you've utilized these comparables in coming to that $4.62 rate?
Correct, yes.
So your office comparables range from $7.82 to $15, and you've come up with a market rent of $12.50 for the office section.
That's correct, yes.
And the industrial section, your rates range from $3.12 to $7, and you've utilized $4.25 for the rate.
Okay, yeah. So just to clarify, the $3.12, we recognize that was a clerical error on our end, so we are not considering that comp anymore. But based, I'm sorry, you cut out. I think my connection just cut out a little bit there.
It is in your evidence, though, correct?
It is in my evidence. That is correct. Yes.
I have some rebuttal. Maybe if I can hand that out, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Belen, would I have access to that online?
It's
Thank you.
It's listed item number 3, file 20543-1309 Mountain Avenue A&T rebuttal.
Want me to send it again?
Yes, please. I know it's here somewhere, but I apologize, Bill, and I have it right here. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Assessor.
Okay, so I know you said that 3 Meridian Drive is not, you're not utilizing that, but since you put it in there, I did ask you for the addresses before, correct? For your comparables?
Yes, you did.
And that was 75 Meridian?
That's correct.
Multi-tenanted building. So on page 2 of my rebuttal, there's the tenant roll for 75 Meridian.
Yeah.
And unit 7 and 8, you can see that it's a gross rent of $3.12 there, but that rent was only in place from January 15, 2018 to April 30th, 2018, correct?
That is correct, yes.
I'm just wondering why you wouldn't have used the rent just above that, which is also the same space or the same size of space, 23,096 square feet. Yeah, 23,096 square feet, and that has a rental rate of $7.95 net, and that lease has been in place for 7 years, I think.
Yeah. I just I don't really have anything to say about that. I didn't include it in my evidence. So.
Okay, so page 3, 1456 Church.
Okay.
That's index number 7 on your comps, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So that's a 14-foot wall height there, and there's no loading docks?
Yes.
Where the subject does have taller walls and loading docks, correct?
That's correct. However, I did state here that we feel that that specific comparable is inferior, and we have applied a rate that is higher than the index number 7.
And then your index number 9 is 1725 Inkster.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yes.
You're stating a rent of $4.75.
Yes, that's correct.
I just noticed that on my second, my last page, there's the tenant roll for 1725 Inkster, and you'll note that D1 there is $5.25. And I know, if you work out the calculation there, $11,696.56 times 12 divided by the square foot of 26,735. That works out to $5.25. Now, they stated as a semi-gross there, but if you look on the following page, there's their income and expense mailer, and you'll notice that they are recovering all the cost there. So general administrative recoveries is in their utilities and property tax recovery. So I believe that 525 is a net rent also. So,
okay.
So your comparables would most likely range from $3.96 if you were to take that inferior building. Did you say you were using that or not?
The inferior building for index number 7, yes, I am. It is the first one, index number 6, that we're not considering.
So 369 to 795 would be the range, but you've utilized $4.25.
Yes, because the subject property doesn't have its own designated loading or parking areas, so we feel that would be inefficient. It appears that the subject was most likely built as single occupancy at first, but then maybe now it's a multi-tenant. So
you're saying that the loading docks on the side there of the building don't have enough space for semis?
I'm saying that I'm saying that it would affect the access, the ingress and egress for the property. That's not typically. I would expect that for newer industrial properties or even multi-tenanted properties, as we could see from my lease comparables, that many of the lease comparables that I have chosen here do have their own separate loading or even grade level, or even areas with grade level doors. Those typically are separated from the parking areas. So we feel that the property is inferior and has a functional obsolescence in this sense.
Okay, those are all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Assessor. Ms. Linkletter, any questions of the appellant?
No questions,
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre.
Just one, do you have any evidence to quantify the functional obsolescence?
Well, just looking at the actual leases in place, I didn't state it in here, but if we take the semi-gross rents that are applied, of the tenant-occupied warehouse, I believe we would come to much lower than what's stated here. I believe it was $6.33 a square foot for the tenant-occupied warehouse. So if we net that down, we're definitely going to come in, looking at the business assessment, at about $4.25. So the actual leases in place would probably be the best indication of the rents for the subject.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. And I have no questions. So, Mr. Dost Mohammed, when you are ready, please, 1309 Mountain Avenue.
Okay, so maybe I'll just start on page 2 of my brief. So there we see in November 2nd, 2000, 18 years before the reference date, there was a sale on the property for $1.4 million. On page 3 are my comparables. So you'll notice that all comparables are industrial properties. All leases are current in relation to the reference date. All comparables are located in the same market region as the subject. Effective ages range from 1970 to 1985. Wall heights range from 12 foot to 29 feet. Leasable areas range from approximately 24,000 square feet to approximately 60,000 square feet. Now, I've done that to separate the two large premises and then have the whole building as one premise. And our net rents range from $4.50 per square foot to $6.50 per square foot. On page 4, you'll see our work up there. Now, premise ID 17812 is owner occupied, and the owner did do a BA appeal on that. They were contesting our assessed business value. We utilize the $4.92 for our assessed business value. So if you turn to page 13, there's our business assessment, and you can see that the base rate that we're using is $4.92. And then we added the area for heat, electricity, water, which came up with our annual rental value. And the board, on page 14, you'll see that the board decision was confirming our evidence, and they confirmed our annual rental value for business assessment. So going back to my workup on page 4, so there's the our rents per square foot. So the tenant or the owner occupied section of the building, we utilize $4.92. The other two premises, we utilize $4.97 for 21,630 square feet of leasable area, and $7.97 for the 2,760 square foot of leasable area. So our overall net rental rate was $5.11 per square foot. We're allowing for 3.5% vacancy loss. We're allowing for 2% non-recoverable expenses as per our non-recoverable study on page 18. And we're allowing for $3.75 per square foot of vacancy shortfall. That gives us a net operating income of $232,306. We're using an overall cap rate of 7%. That gives us a capitalized value and a assessed value rounded to $3,319,000. So again, if you turn to page 8, there's the map of the subject area, the parcel boundaries below that. And then on page 9, there's the overhead view of the building. And you can see there's lots of room for parking. I believe semi-trailers can get in there. Page 9, lower page 9 is the entrance to the building. And on page 10 is another view of that entrance. So in short, given the state of the industrial real estate market in Winnipeg over the last several years, again, there's more users than available space. And taking into account the board decision for our annual rental value on the business assessment side, we believe that the assessed value of $3,319,000 is fair and accurate, and we respectfully ask that the board confirm this value. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Oliveris, any questions? And I believe you probably have some rebuttal evidence sitting here too.
Yes, that is correct. Let me just give me a second. I'm just going to pull up the questions that I had here.
Okay.
Okay, so I saved these questions for this particular property regarding the cap rates. But okay, so if we flip to sorry, I'll ask about the rent comps first. So, Arif, just looking at your lease comparables here, you would agree with me that majority of these lease comparables that I believe the model outputs, is that correct?
No,
Or
I
did you choose these?
picked these comparables.
Okay. They are, the wall heights here, they are significantly, sorry, not 1450 Mountain, Unit 4, that one is significantly higher than the subject. Would you agree with that for the wall height?
Yeah, but the reason I picked that it was because of the large space, 59,000
Okay.
square feet, compared to the total space of the subject of 49,390.
Okay. But the wall heights for 1680 Church, 1310 Mountain Avenue, 1431 Church for that unit, and 1431 Church Unit B, those wall heights are higher than the subject, correct?
Well, hold on, just the one there, 1450 Mountain Avenue, unit number 4. The
Unit
other
number.
ones are in line.
The other ones are in line. Okay, we got 22, 24. Okay. The rest of my questions will be in my rebuttal, but let's go to your cap rate evidence now. There were some statements in here. That I did want to ask about. So I asked the questions in the last part here.
I'll refer to page
oh.
6 on our cap rates.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm just looking at the sort of the ancillary documents here. So particularly to the Capital Commercial Real Estate Market Report, you'd agree with me that the northwest portion, which I believe includes the Inkster Industrial Park, that has some of the highest vacancy rates, and that has the highest vacancy rate in Winnipeg, according to this. Is that correct?
Which document are you referring to?
So it's on page 12 of your brief.
Appendix 12?
Appendix 12, sorry, yes.
Okay, so Appendix 12 is one of several studies that I put in there. So that was the Capital Commercial Real Estate Study. There's also a Collier study for Winnipeg Northwest on page 8. And then there's also a Cushman Wakefield cap rate study on page 3. So I've just put several references. So Cushman says it's 3%. Collier says it's between, Collier says it's 3.66%. And Capital says it's at 6%, yeah.
Okay, so sorry, for Winnipeg Northwest, 3.66. Okay. But Capital does say that it has some of the highest vacancy rates, correct?
Well, it
For the
doesn't
Inkster Industrial Park?
list the vacancy rate. It's not making a statement about anything, but it does say 6%, whereas the others are below 4%.
Okay. So I just had one other question here. I'm just trying to find it. Or sorry, I'm just trying to find the document related to the question. So on appendix page 2, we see here from the Collier's report that the Inkster Industrial Park has the third lowest asking rents of the industrial park stated in this study. Is that correct?
Sorry, what page were you on again?
On appendix page 2.
Okay, so the Cushman Wakefield?
No, I believe this one, oh yeah, sorry, it is Cushman Wakefield, that's correct.
So, sorry, can you repeat the question?
So the Inkster Industrial Park has the third lowest asking rents.
Where do you?
So it is the graph on the bottom left of the page. I think we can make out that that does say Inkster. So
Sorry, I'm not following. I see Central, Transcona. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Inkster. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the average is 620.
Yes, the average is 620, which means that's it has a third lowest asking rents.
Refer you to page 3 of the same Cushman Wakefield study, or
Okay.
the top section there. The Northwest asking net rental rate is $7.35.
Okay. Sub-market asking rents. Okay. Do you know what what properties were maybe considered in those statements? I know typically with these studies that maybe that I believe it's even stated in our cap rate study here that usually they observe properties that are in the premium that would possibly rent for a premium.
No, they're investment grade properties is
Okay.
what the Johnson report classifies.
Okay. All right. Okay. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Oliveris. Ms. Linkletter, any questions?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I do have rebuttal to submit as well. Sorry, I missed that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's deal with the questions first, and then we'll deal with rebuttal. How's that?
For sure. Yes.
Ms. Linkletter, any questions of the assessor's presentation so far?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And neither do I. So, Mr. Oliveris, your rebuttal evidence, please.
Okay. So I'll move on to page 3 of the rebuttal evidence here for 1680 Church Avenue. Okay, so we can see here from the photos that on page 3 that there is a designated parking area and designated loading areas for this comparable in comparison to the subject property, which does not have separate loading and parking areas. So 1680 Church is a multi-tenant office warehouse, 24-foot wall height. Again, designated parking and loading area. It has 6,200 square feet of finished office space, which we feel would drive up the rent for this property. There is compound space available, a land area of 121,968 square feet, and the land to building ratio is higher than the subject at 3 to 1. 1310 Mountain Avenue. We have a one-story warehouse with office. It was built in 1984 with a 22-foot wall height, single tenant with 3,840 square feet of office space. We can see here, we can assume that that office space, looking on page 5 of my brief, is actually the main floor. Again, driving up the rents for that property. It has a designated parking and loading area, 82,764 square feet of land area, and the land to building is approximately 3.15 to 1. 1431 Church Avenue, multi-tenant manufacturing warehouse with a 22-foot wall height, a 20-foot clear height, and each tenant, you can see from the photo here, they do appear to have their own designated parking and loading areas. There are 6 loading bays, and I do have some, I have in my appendix the information supporting that you can refer to, and the appendix does start on page 15 of my brief, just to show where I got the supporting evidence from. Okay, and 1415 Mountain Avenue, Unit 4. It's a multi-tenant office warehouse, 29-foot wall height, designated parking and loading areas. The land area is 405,108 square feet. Land to building ratio of 1.6, but we can see here from the photo again that it appears to have its own designated loading area and parking area here to the west. The loading areas are more to the southeast of the subject. 1551 Church. So looking at the photos here, it has a significant office portion, as you can see from the first photo. And I've provided some aerial views of that comp on page 12 of the rebuttal evidence. And I've also taken sort of an estimated measurement here to come up with my land to building ratio. The multi-tenant office warehouse, the leased area appears to include the entire office area. So we know from the assessor's brief here that the leased area is approximately just give me a second to flip to that. The leased area is approximately 43,805 square feet. So looking at this, looking at my rebuttal evidence here, that rent appears to include the significant amount of office space, which you can see on page 12. So again, that would drive up the rent. So that wouldn't, in our opinion, be a good indication of the value of the lease rate that this property would lease at, just because of that office area. And again, I would like to state this, that there is designated parking and loading areas. There's a compound area, and the land to building ratio is 3.38 to 1. So in conclusion, we feel that the leases that the assessor has chosen to provide to us here today are superior to the subject because of some of the higher land to building ratios. We have slightly higher wall heights, but the biggest point I would like to say here is that each of these lease comps appear to have their own. Each of them appear to have designated parking and loading areas in comparison to the subject property, which does not. And that concludes my presentation for the rebuttal evidence.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oliveris. Mr. Dus Mohammed, any questions on the rebuttal evidence presented?
I just have one question. Is it your opinion that the subject has no parking and no loading area?
I'm not saying it doesn't have any parking or a loading area. I'm saying that because the parking area is mixed in with the loading area, that it's a very inefficient layout. Well, it actually causes a functional obsolescence within the property or for the subject site.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, any questions regarding the rebuttal from the appellant?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linkletter?
Did you inspect the property, Mr. Oliveris?
Just the owner occupied unit.
Thank you. And I have no questions. Mr. Dus Mohammed, any requirement for summary on the property?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oliveris?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, so that concludes 1309 Mountain Avenue, and I believe, Mr. Oliveris, that concludes your work for today. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you all for your time. And Arif, it was great to meet you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll consider all the evidence on this property, and you'll hear from it as soon as possible. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So item number 4, Ellen, do we have any, I guess we have nobody in attendance for 2850 Saskatchewan Avenue or via Zoom? Okay. Go ahead. So Mr. Dus Mohammed, 2850 Saskatchewan Avenue, we've got a 2021 realty appeal. We have no appearance apparently by the appellant. Any comments from you at all?
I can read it out.
Yes, please. Yeah. Could you enter the subject into for the record, and then we'll deal with whether you've heard anything or not. Thank you.
So it's Board of Revision file number 20-384. number 074390300000. Address is 2850 Saskatchewan Avenue. Roll year is 2021, and reference date is April 1st, 2018. So there's three components to the assessed value. There's a residential component, a farm or agricultural component, and an industrial component. So the residential we're assessing at $302,000. The agricultural property we're assessing at $975,000. The industrial section component we're assessing at $904,000 for a total assessment of $2,181,000. And the way we've worked this out is on a cost approach. So everything is costed out. There's three buildings at the premise or at the parcel. There's one premise, one story. Actual year built is between 1935 and 1995. Expected year built is 1958. Wall height is 12. The land area is 4,449,941 square feet, or 102 acres approximately. Land to plan area, the plan area is 3,697 square feet. There is a small basement in the residential of approximately 1,700 square feet. Gross floor area is 5,401 square feet. Leasable area is 1,160 square feet. Land to plan area is 1,203.66 to 1. On the following page, we see that there hasn't been a sale, but there has been some sworn values, I guess, for accounting purposes. The sworn value in November 13, 2018 was $4,309,199. I've also pulled the status of title. It's on page 17. There we can see that there is a mortgage of $2,700,000 on the property. Did you want me to go through my workups also, or my comparables?
No, I don't think so. I think you've detailed your valuation approach and the details of the property. Any comments on any contact with the appellant?
I did try sending an email. I thought maybe we can come to some kind of agreement before the appeal, but I never heard back.
Okay. So no contact at all. Okay. Mr. McIntyre, any questions regarding this property?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linkletter?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. And in summary, Mr. Das Mohammed, the total value.
So on page 16, we could see the cost, how we costed it out. We only utilized 40 cents per square foot on each of the land areas. We have our depreciation on the buildings, replacement cost new, less depreciation. And adding in the land values, we come out to $2,181,000.
Okay, and then on page 1, we have these different classification codes assigned to the different valuations of a residential, one farm property, and other property, totaling $2,181,000. Okay. No questions from the panel. I have no questions either, so that will conclude 2850 Saskatchewan Avenue. And I do believe, with no attendance by the appellant, so I do believe that concludes our hearing for today. Thank you very much, Mr. Das Mohammed.
Thank you, everybody.